How to heal a broken heart in 30 days. Welcome. If you are listening to this, your heart is hurting. You might feel lost, exhausted, or stuck in a loop of painful memories. But I want you to know one thing right now. You are going to be okay. This is a roadmap to help you heal. We will not use confusing concepts. Instead, we will use simple steps to mend your heart and rebuild your life. Take a deep breath. Your healing starts today. Before we begin, I have a question for you. What is one small thing that brought you a tiny bit of comfort today? Please comment your answer below. Sharing your experience helps build a community of healing. Chapter 1. You're not crazy, it's just biology. We need to start by validating exactly what you are feeling right now. When a relationship ends, people often tell you to just get over it. They tell you to move on, to find a new hobby, or to smile through the pain. But when you are alone in your room and the silence feels deafening, those words feel empty. You might even start to think that there is something deeply wrong with you. You might wonder why you cannot just snap out of it. You might feel weak. You might feel like you are losing your mind. I am here to tell you that you are not weak, and you are definitely not crazy. What you are experiencing is a profound biological event. Your brain and your body are reacting to a massive shock. Understanding this science is the first step to taking your power back. To truly understand heartbreak, we have to look inside the human brain. For decades, scientists believed that emotional pain and physical pain were completely different. They thought that a broken bone was a physical problem, while a broken heart was just a psychological issue. But modern neuroscience has completely destroyed that old belief. In a groundbreaking study conducted by psychology professor Ethan Kross at the University of Michigan, researchers took 40 people who had recently gone through an unwanted romantic breakup. These people were feeling intense rejection and sorrow. The researchers put these heartbroken individuals into a brain scanner. This machine allows scientists to see exactly which parts of the brain are active in real time. First, they showed these people photographs of their ex-partners. As the participants looked at the faces of the people who broke their hearts, their brains lit up. Specific regions of the brain became highly active. Then, the researchers did something fascinating. They took the same participants and subjected them to a mild physical pain. They applied a hot probe to their left arms, creating a sensation similar to spilling hot coffee on your skin. They scanned their brains again. The results were absolutely astonishing. The exact same brain regions that lit up when they felt the physical burn also lit up when they looked at the photos of their exes. Specifically, the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula became active. These are the areas of the brain that process physical pain. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between the emotional trauma of a breakup and the physical trauma of being burned by hot coffee. When you say that your chest hurts, or that you feel a heavy ache in your heart, you are not using a metaphor. You are describing a real, measurable physical sensation. Your brain is generating pain signals, so the very first actionable step in your healing journey is to treat yourself as if you are recovering from a major physical injury. Think about what you would do if you just broke your leg. You would not force yourself to run a marathon the next day. You would not yell at yourself for being unable to walk perfectly. You would give yourself grace. You would rest. You would hydrate. You would allow your body the time it needs to repair the damage. You must apply this exact same logic to your heartbreak. Your brain is injured, it needs rest. You must prioritize your sleep. During the first few weeks of a breakup, your sleep is often completely disrupted. You might wake up in the middle of the night with your heart racing. This is because your body is flooded with cortisol, which is the primary stress hormone. High levels of cortisol keep you in a state of high alert. To combat this, you need to actively work on calming your nervous system before bed. Create a strict nighttime routine. Turn off all electronic screens at least 1 hour before you try to sleep. The blue light from your phone tricks your brain into thinking it is still daytime, which prevents the release of sleep hormones. Instead of looking at your phone, try reading a book, taking a warm bath, or practicing deep breathing exercises. Inhale deeply through your nose for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, and exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 seconds. Doing this sends a signal to your brain that you are safe, which helps lower your cortisol levels. Now we must talk about the second biological reality of heartbreak. It involves a chemical in your brain called dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that makes you feel pleasure, reward, and motivation. When you are in a romantic relationship, your partner becomes your primary source of dopamine. Every time you receive a text message from them, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. Every time you hold their hand, or laugh at their jokes, or think about your future together, your brain gets flooded with this feel-good chemical. Over time, your brain actually physically wires itself around this constant supply of dopamine. You develop a reward pathway that is completely dependent on your partner. When the relationship ends, this steady supply of dopamine is suddenly cut off. This leads us to another incredible scientific discovery. A biological anthropologist named Helen Fisher conducted a famous study at Rutgers University, where she scanned the brains of people who had just been dumped. She found that the brains of rejected lovers showed massive activity in the ventral tegmental area. This is the exact same region of the brain that becomes active when a drug addict is experiencing withdrawal from substances like cocaine or nicotine. Let me repeat that because it is extremely important. To your brain, love is a highly addictive substance, and a breakup sends you into literal chemical withdrawal. This explains why you feel an overwhelming urge to contact your ex. It explains why you constantly check your phone hoping for a message. It explains why you feel obsessive thoughts that you cannot seem to control. You are not weak-willed. You are simply experiencing dopamine withdrawal. Your brain is starving for its favorite drug, and it is trying to trick you into getting a quick fix. When you understand this, you can completely change how you handle the urge to reach out to them. This brings us to the most crucial, actionable step of this entire chapter. You must implement a strict, non-negotiable period of zero contact. Every single time you look at their social media profile, you are giving your brain a tiny drop of dopamine. Every time you read through old text messages or ask a mutual friend how they are doing, you are feeding the addiction. This tiny hit of dopamine feels good for about 5 seconds, but it resets your entire healing clock. It keeps the addiction alive. It keeps you trapped in the cycle of withdrawal. If you want to heal, you have to starve the craving. How do you practically achieve zero contact? It requires discipline and environmental design. First, you must remove the digital triggers. Unfollow or block your ex on all social media platforms. This is not petty or immature. It is a necessary medical intervention for your brain. If you cannot bring yourself to block them, deactivate your own accounts for 30 days. Second, delete their phone number from your contacts. If you have it memorized, write it down on a piece of paper and give it to a trusted friend, then delete it from your phone. Third, remove all physical reminders from your living space. Take down the photographs. Put the gifts they gave you into a box and put that box completely out of sight. You need to create an environment where you are not constantly bombarded by triggers that cause dopamine cravings. When the urge to break this rule hits you, and it will hit you hard, you need an action plan. The cravings usually last for about 20 minutes before they begin to subside. Your goal is simply to survive those 20 minutes without taking action. When you feel the desperate need to check their profile or send a text, physically put your phone in another room. Change your physical state immediately. Do 20 jumping jacks. Drink a large glass of freezing cold water. Step outside and let the cold air hit your face. Call a family member and talk about anything other than the breakup. You must interrupt the pattern. Tell yourself out loud, I am experiencing a chemical craving, and this feeling will pass. You are the master of your own actions, and you have the power to sit through the discomfort. You might be wondering how your brain will ever feel happy again if its main source of dopamine is gone. The human brain is an absolute miracle of nature. It possesses an ability called neuroplasticity. This means that your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on your daily actions and experiences. Right now, your neural pathways are heavily wired toward your ex, but every single day that you do not contact them, those specific pathways become weaker and weaker. At the same time, you have the opportunity to build brand new pathways that generate dopamine from different, healthier sources. This is where you must take active control of your recovery. You cannot just sit on the couch and wait for time to heal you. You have to actively build new dopamine sources. The most effective way to do this is through physical movement. Exercise is not just about getting fit, it is a neurological intervention. When you exercise, your brain releases endorphins, which are natural painkillers. It also increases the production of proteins that help your brain build new neural connections. You do not need to become a bodybuilder. You just need to move your body every single day. Go for a brisk 30-minute walk in the morning. Put on your favorite music and dance in your living room. The goal is to elevate your heart rate and force your body to generate its own feel-good chemicals. Another highly effective way to create new dopamine pathways is through novel experiences. When you try something completely new, your brain gets a surge of dopamine because it loves novelty. During this 30-day period, commit to learning one small new skill or trying one new activity every week. It could be learning how to cook a new recipe. It could be driving to a neighborhood you have never visited before. It could be trying a new sport. These small, novel experiences send a clear message to your brain. They tell your brain that there is a big, exciting world out there, and that you do not need your past relationship to feel a sense of reward. We also need to address the feeling of rejection. When someone leaves you, it is natural to internalize that rejection and turn it into self-hatred. You might look in the mirror and list all of your flaws. You might tell yourself that you were not smart enough, or attractive enough, or successful enough to keep them. This negative self-talk is incredibly dangerous. It compounds the pain of the breakup with the pain of self-betrayal. You need to separate their decision from your inherent value as a human being. Their inability to see your worth does not decrease your worth. This requires the practice of cognitive reappraisal. This is a psychological technique where you intentionally change the way you interpret a situation. Instead of viewing the breakup as a confirmation that you are unlovable, you must reframe it as a mismatch of paths. A relationship ending is just a data point. It simply means that the combination of you and that specific person at this specific time did not work. It says absolutely nothing about your future or your worthiness of love. Every time you catch yourself spiraling into thoughts of self-blame, you must actively interrupt the thought. Say the word "stop" out loud, then replace the thought with a statement of self-compassion. Tell yourself, I am going through a difficult transition and I am doing my absolute best. Speak to yourself with the same kindness and patience that you would offer to a dear friend who was suffering. Let us dive deeper into the physical symptoms of heartbreak because understanding them removes the fear. Many people report feeling a literal ache in their chest, a loss of appetite, and extreme fatigue. This happens because your autonomic nervous system is dysregulated. Your body has two main modes: the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight mode, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest mode. The shock of a breakup throws you completely into fight or flight mode. Your body believes it is under physical attack. This is why you cannot eat. When you are running from a predator, your body shuts down your digestive system to send all available energy to your muscles. To heal, you must manually activate your rest and digest system. How do you do this? First, focus on nutrition even when you have no appetite. You cannot heal a damaged brain if you are starving your body of essential nutrients. Do not force yourself to eat massive meals. Instead, focus on small, nutrient-dense foods. Drink smoothies packed with spinach, bananas, and protein. Eat a handful of almonds. Drink plenty of water. Your brain is made mostly of water, and dehydration will only make your anxiety worse. Second, use temperature therapy to calm your nervous system. Taking a cold shower for 2 minutes in the morning has been shown to drastically reduce baseline cortisol levels and increase dopamine. If a cold shower is too intense, simply splash freezing cold water on your face for 30 seconds. This triggers the mammalian dive reflex, which instantly slows down your heart rate and reduces panic. You must also understand the concept of the withdrawal timeline. Healing is not a straight line. Many people get frustrated because they feel better for 3 days and then suddenly have a day where they feel completely devastated again. This is perfectly normal. It is part of the biological recalibration process. Think of your emotions like waves in the ocean. In the first few weeks, the waves are massive and they hit you constantly. You feel like you are drowning. But as the days go by, the waves start to spread out. They might still be big when they hit, but you have more time to breathe between them. Over time, the waves become smaller and less frequent until the water is finally calm. When you have a bad day, do not view it as a failure. Do not tell yourself that you are starting over from scratch. A bad day is just a wave passing through. Let it wash over you without fighting it. Cry if you need to cry. Crying is incredibly productive. Tears actually contain stress hormones, so when you cry, you are literally flushing cortisol out of your body. Let the emotion happen, and then trust that the next day will be a little bit brighter. We must also talk about the danger of false hope. False hope is the absolute enemy of healing. False hope is the little voice in your head that says, maybe they will realize they made a mistake and come back. Maybe if I improve myself enough, they will want me again. False hope keeps your brain reward center tethered to a phantom outcome. It prevents your brain from accepting the finality of the situation, which prevents the neuroplastic rewiring from starting. You have to kill the false hope. This sounds harsh, but it is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. You must mentally close the door. Accept that the relationship is over forever. Tell yourself that there is no alternate universe where you get back together. The story has ended. Only when you fully accept the ending can you begin to write the next chapter. To help you kill the false hope, you need to practice radical acceptance. Radical acceptance means accepting reality exactly as it is without trying to fight it or wish it were different. You do not have to like the reality. You do not have to approve of it. You just have to acknowledge that it is happening. When you find yourself hoping for their return, gently bring your focus back to the present moment. Look around your room and name 5 things you can see. This grounding technique pulls your brain out of hypothetical futures and plants it firmly in the reality of now. Healing a broken heart requires massive courage. It requires you to sit with uncomfortable feelings instead of running away from them. It requires you to take action even when you have zero motivation. But I promise you that the human spirit is remarkably resilient. Your brain is designed to survive this. Millions of people have gone through this exact same pain and come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more capable of love than ever before. You are not the exception. You have the exact same biological machinery required to heal. Every single day that you wake up and choose to take care of yourself, you are winning. Every time you drink a glass of water, you are winning. Every time you resist the urge to check their social media, you are winning a massive victory for your future self. You are actively rebuilding your brain. You are taking your power back. You are proving to yourself that you are your own greatest protector and your own greatest source of love. Do not rush the process. Do not let society tell you how long it should take to heal. Just focus on today. Focus on the next 24 hours. Give your body the rest it needs. Starve the addiction. Move your body. Feed your mind with new experiences. Speak to yourself with relentless compassion. You are laying the foundation for a beautiful, independent, and joyful life. The pain you are feeling right now is temporary. It is just biology running its course. The strength you are building right now will last for the rest of your life. Keep moving forward. Keep taking deep breaths. You are doing an incredible job, and your healing is already underway. Chapter 2: The Detox and Emotional First Aid. Welcome to the second phase of your healing. In the first chapter, we explored the biological reality of your heartbreak. We established that you are not losing your mind, but rather your brain is going through a massive chemical withdrawal. You learned about the necessity of zero contact to stop feeding the dopamine addiction. Now that you have stopped the active bleeding by cutting off contact, it is time to tend to the wound itself. This chapter is entirely dedicated to the detox process and emotional first aid. We are going to look closely at what you should do with the massive, overwhelming wave of emotions that you are currently carrying. Right now, you are probably feeling a chaotic mixture of sadness, intense anger, profound confusion, and perhaps even moments of panic. This emotional cocktail is heavy. It feels like you are walking around with a backpack full of large rocks. Many people, when faced with this unbearable weight, choose the path of avoidance. They try to outrun the pain. They throw themselves into their work, working 14-hour days so they do not have to think. They go out drinking every night. They immediately jump into dating apps to find a distraction. They force a smile and tell everyone that they are completely fine. Society often praises this behavior. People will call you strong for not crying. They will admire how quickly you seem to have bounced back. But science tells a completely different and far more dangerous story. When you ignore an emotion, it does not magically disappear. It simply gets buried alive within your body. Emotional suppression is the act of consciously or unconsciously pushing down uncomfortable feelings. When you suppress your emotions, your brain still perceives the emotional threat, but because you are not releasing it, your body remains in a constant state of high alert. This requires a massive amount of internal energy. Imagine trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes constant, exhausting effort to keep it submerged. The moment your arms get tired, the ball shoots up to the surface with explosive force. This is exactly what happens when you suppress heartbreak. The physical consequences of emotional suppression are severe. Numerous medical studies have shown that bottling up emotional pain directly damages your physical health. When you suppress negative emotions, your sympathetic nervous system kicks into overdrive. Your blood pressure rises, your heart rate increases, and your body pumps out chronic levels of stress hormones. In long-term studies on emotional suppression, researchers have discovered terrifying statistics. A famous Yugoslavian cohort study that followed participants over a 12-year period found that chronic emotional suppression was associated with a massively increased risk of premature mortality. Specifically, the prolonged suppression of anger and hopelessness was independently linked to a higher risk of heart disease and even cancer. When you refuse to feel your emotional pain, your physical heart literally pays the price. Your body keeps the score of every tear you refuse to shed and every angry word you swallow. This is why you might be experiencing tension headaches, severe neck and shoulder pain, stomach issues, or an inability to digest your food properly. Your unexpressed grief is manifesting as physical illness. Therefore, the very first rule of emotional first aid is that you must feel it to heal it. You have to let the beach ball come up to the surface. You have to give yourself permission to completely fall apart. This brings us to the most natural, biological release valve that your body possesses. We need to talk about crying. Many people view crying as a sign of weakness, a loss of control, or something to be ashamed of. Men, in particular, are socially conditioned from a young age to hold back their tears. But crying is an evolutionary masterpiece. It is a highly sophisticated physiological mechanism designed to bring your body back into balance after a severe emotional shock. To understand why crying is so crucial, we must look at the groundbreaking research conducted by Dr. William Frey, a biochemist at the Ramsey Medical Center in Minneapolis. Dr. Frey was fascinated by tears. He wanted to know if the tears we cry when we chop an onion are the same as the tears we cry when we are heartbroken. To test this, he gathered groups of volunteers and exposed them to freshly cut onions, collecting the tears they produced. These are called reflex tears. Then he had the volunteers watch deeply emotional, sad movies and collected the tears they cried from sorrow. These are called emotional tears. When Dr. Frey analyzed the chemical composition of both sets of tears in his laboratory, the results were astonishing. The onion tears were mostly just water, salt, and some protective oils. But the emotional tears were completely different. The emotional tears contained high concentrations of stress hormones. Specifically, they contained adrenocorticotropic hormone, also known as ACTH, which is a major indicator of physical stress. They also contained prolactin, another hormone associated with stress and emotional distress. Finally, the emotional tears contained a substance called leucine enkephalin. This is a natural painkiller and an endorphin produced by the brain to relieve suffering. What does this incredibly specific chemistry mean for you right now? It means that when you are heartbroken, your body becomes flooded with toxic levels of stress hormones, and your tear ducts act as the physical exhaust pipes for your body. When you cry emotional tears, you are literally, physically excreting stress hormones out of your body. You are flushing the toxicity out of your system. This is why, after a deep, sobbing cry, you often feel physically lighter. You might feel exhausted, but your chest does not feel as tight. Your breathing becomes slower and deeper. You feel a sense of calm wash over you. It is because you have just administered a natural painkiller to yourself, and you have successfully lowered the stress chemicals in your bloodstream. Knowing this science, your actionable step is to actively schedule time to cry. I know this sounds strange. We usually try to schedule our joy, not our sorrow. But right now, your sorrow needs an appointment. If you try to hold back your tears all day while you're at work or running errands, that pressure will build up and cause severe anxiety. Instead, you need to create a safe container for your grief. Choose a specific time and place where you will allow yourself to completely let go. Perhaps it is in your car after you park in your driveway after work. Perhaps it is sitting on the floor of your shower in the evening. When you get to your safe space, you must intentionally lean into the pain. Put on a sad song that reminds you of the relationship. Look at a photograph if you need a trigger, though you must immediately put it away afterward. Let the tears come. Do not try to wipe them away immediately. Do not try to quiet your breathing. If you need to sob loudly, do it. If you need to curl into a tight ball on the floor, do it. Give yourself 15 to 20 minutes to completely surrender to the heartbreak. Think of it as a physical detox session. You are wringing out a wet sponge. Once the timer goes off, or once the natural wave of crying begins to subside, you must practice emotional regulation. Take deep, slow breaths. Wash your face with freezing cold water to bring down the inflammation and reset your nervous system. Say out loud to yourself, I have released the pain for today, and now I will continue with my life. This practice prevents the grief from controlling your entire day. You are the one driving the car. You are simply pulling over to let the engine cool down. As you go through this emotional detox, you are going to encounter a very specific and confusing type of pain. It is the sudden, jarring realization that the person you loved is simply gone from your daily life. You might wake up in the morning and reach for your phone to text them good morning, only to realize a split second later that you cannot do that anymore. You might hear a funny joke and immediately turn your head to share it with them, only to find an empty room. These moments feel like a fresh stab to the heart. They can make you feel like you are moving backward in your healing process. To help you survive these moments, we turn to the brilliant work of Dr. Mary Frances O'Connor, a neuroscientist at the University of Arizona who specializes in the study of grief. Dr. O'Connor wrote a fascinating book called The Grieving Brain, where she explains exactly why these painful moments occur. She explains that human beings are deeply wired for attachment. When you fall in love and build a life with someone, your brain creates a complex internal map of the world. In this internal map, your brain constantly tracks where you are, where your safe places are, and where your loved ones are. Your brain literally encodes your partner into its understanding of reality. When your partner leaves, the external reality changes instantly. But your internal brain map does not change instantly. Updating this massive neural map takes a significant amount of time and energy. So when you wake up and reach for your phone to text them, it is not because you are weak or in denial. It is simply because your brain is using its old map. Your brain is predicting that your partner is still there, just like it predicts that your dining room table will still be in the dining room when you walk in. Dr. O'Connor describes grieving as a form of learning. Your brain is faced with a massive conflict. It has the deeply encoded belief that your partner is a permanent fixture in your life, and it is receiving new daily information that your partner is gone. The intense yearning you feel, the desperate desire to see them or hear their voice, is your brain trying to bridge the gap between the old map and the new reality. It is a biological imperative to seek out our missing attachments. Understanding this completely changes how you should treat yourself when you experience a wave of missing them. Instead of getting angry at yourself and thinking, "Why am I still missing them? I should be over this by now," you can offer yourself deep compassion. You can simply say to yourself, "My brain is just struggling to learn a new reality. My brain is updating its map." This takes time, and it is okay that it hurts. So how do we help the brain update its map without causing unnecessary suffering? We do this through the power of expressive writing. You cannot simply think your way out of heartbreak. Your thoughts are moving too fast, bouncing around in an endless loop of what-ifs and regrets. To process the loss, you must take the chaotic thoughts out of your head and put them into a physical form. You must make them tangible. This is where we introduce the pioneering research of Dr. James Pennebaker, a research psychologist at the University of Texas at Austin. In the late 1980s, Dr. Pennebaker wanted to know if writing about traumatic experiences could physically heal the body. He designed a simple but incredibly profound experiment. He divided a group of volunteers into two sections. The first group was instructed to write about superficial, mundane topics, like describing their living room furniture or what kind of shoes they were wearing. The second group was given a very different task. They were instructed to write about their deepest, most traumatic thoughts and emotional upheavals. Both groups were asked to write for just 15 to 20 minutes a day for 4 consecutive days. Dr. Pennebaker then tracked the physical health of all the participants for months after the writing exercise. He took blood samples to measure their immune system function and tracked how many times they visited the doctor. The results were completely revolutionary. The people who wrote about their deep emotional trauma showed a massive increase in the functioning of their cellular immune system. Their bodies produced more T lymphocytes, which are the white blood cells that fight off illness. Furthermore, The trauma writing group visited the health center 43% less often than the control group in the months following the experiment. They were physically healthier simply because they put their emotional pain on paper. Dr. Pennebaker discovered that keeping emotional trauma a secret is physically exhausting to the body. It acts as a chronic stressor. But when you write about your deep feelings, you are forcing your brain to organize the chaos. You are taking abstract, swirling emotions and turning them into structured language. This process of organizing the trauma literally calms down the nervous system and boosts the immune system. Your next crucial, actionable step is to begin the Pennebaker Expressive Writing Protocol. You are going to commit to writing for 20 minutes a day for the next 4 days. You need a physical notebook and a pen. Do not type this on your computer or your phone. The physical act of writing by hand forces your brain to slow down and connect with your motor skills, which aids in emotional processing. Find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed. Set a timer for 20 minutes. When you start the timer, you must write continuously until it goes off. Do not worry about spelling. Do not worry about grammar. Do not worry about making the sentences sound pretty or poetic. No one is ever going to read this except you. If you run out of things to say, simply rewrite the last sentence over and over until a new thought arrives. What should you write about? You must write about your deepest, darkest, most raw feelings regarding the breakup. Write about the anger you feel toward them. Write about the mistakes you think you made. Write about the terrifying fear you have that you will end up alone. Write about the specific memories that are haunting your mind. Do not hold anything back. If you feel rage, write words of rage. If you feel pathetic and small, write about feeling pathetic and small. The goal is complete, unedited honesty. When the timer goes off, close the notebook immediately. Take a deep breath. You might feel very emotional after this exercise, and that is perfectly normal. You have just performed deep emotional surgery on yourself. Go drink a glass of water, step outside for some fresh air, and consciously transition back into your day. Do this for 4 consecutive days. You will find that by the 4th day, the narrative begins to change. The frantic, desperate energy starts to turn into a more organized understanding of what happened. You are literally helping your brain rewrite its map of reality. Now let us talk about the concept of a physical and environmental detox. Emotional first aid is not just about what happens inside your mind. It is also about what is happening in the physical space around you. Your environment deeply impacts your nervous system. If you are living in an environment that is filled with reminders of your past relationship, you are keeping your nervous system in a constant state of hyperarousal. Every time you walk past the sweater they left on a chair, your brain gets a spike of cortisol and a sudden craving for dopamine. You are living in a minefield of emotional triggers. You must take immediate action to clear your physical space. This is not about erasing the person from history. It is about creating a sterile, safe environment where your emotional wounds can actually heal without being constantly ripped open. Dedicate one afternoon this week to the box method. Get a large cardboard box, walk through every room in your house or apartment, and collect every single item that strongly reminds you of your ex. This includes photographs, gifts they bought you, clothes they left behind, concert tickets pinned to your fridge, and even books you read together. Put all of these items into the box. Do not spend time reminiscing over each item. Treat this as a focused, mechanical task. Your only goal is to clear the visual field. Once everything is in the box, tape it completely shut. Put the box in the back of a closet, up in an attic, or even ask a trusted friend to keep it at their house for the next few months. Once the physical items are gone, you must change the energy of your most important sanctuary. Your bedroom. Your bedroom is where your mind processes the day, and it is where you are most vulnerable to late-night overthinking and morning sadness. If your bedroom looks exactly the same as it did when you were in the relationship, your brain map will continue to expect your partner to be there. You need to disrupt this visual pattern. Rearrange your furniture, move your bed to a different wall, change the color of your bed sheets, buy new pillows, hang a new piece of inexpensive art on the wall facing your bed. Open the windows and let fresh air circulate to clear out the stagnant energy. These might sound like superficial interior design tips, but they are actually powerful psychological interventions. When you change your physical environment, you send a powerful, subconscious signal to your brain. You are telling your brain that chapter is closed and a brand new chapter has begun. This is a new space for a new version of me. During this detox phase, you must also be incredibly careful about the people you allow into your inner circle. Heartbreak makes you vulnerable, and you do not have the energy to deal with people who drain you. This means you have to establish strict boundaries regarding mutual friends. Mutual friends can be wonderful people, but right now, they are dangerous conduits of information. You do not want to hear updates about your ex. You do not want to know if they are sad, if they are happy, or if they have started dating someone new. Any piece of information, good or bad, will violently disrupt your healing process. You must take the lead and communicate your boundaries clearly. Send a polite but firm message to your mutual friends. You can say something simple like, "I value our friendship very much, but right now I am focusing entirely on my healing. For my own peace of mind, I cannot hear any updates or stories about my ex. I appreciate you respecting this boundary while I navigate this tough time." If a friend cannot respect this boundary, you must temporarily distance yourself from them. Your only priority right now is protecting your peace. You are not being selfish, you are simply applying an emotional tourniquet. We also need to address the terrible habit of rumination. Rumination is when your brain gets stuck like a broken record, playing the same painful thoughts over and over again. You might obsessively analyze the final conversation you had, searching for a hidden meaning. You might endlessly wonder if they are thinking about you. Rumination is incredibly toxic. It tricks your brain into thinking you are solving a problem, but in reality, you're just digging the hole deeper. When you catch yourself ruminating, you cannot just tell yourself to stop thinking about it. Studies in psychology show that thought suppression backfires. If I tell you not to think about a pink elephant, the only thing you will think about is a pink elephant. Instead of suppressing the thought, you must practice thought replacement. You need to give your brain a completely different, highly engaging task to focus on. Create a list of immediate distraction techniques that require mental effort. For example, when the rumination loop starts, force yourself to count backward from 100 by sevens, 100, 93, 86, 79, and so on. This simple mathematical task requires enough cognitive load that it actively interrupts the emotional pain center in your brain. Alternatively, look around the room and play the alphabet game. Find an object that starts with A, then B, then C. You are manually shifting your brain out of the emotional limbic system and forcing it to use the logical prefrontal cortex. This stops the rumination in its tracks. Another vital part of emotional first aid is tackling the crushing weight of loneliness. Loneliness is not just a feeling. It is an evolutionary alarm bell. Human beings are deeply social creatures. Thousands of years ago, if you were separated from your tribe, you would die. So when you lose a major attachment figure, your brain sounds the alarm of extreme danger. The loneliness you feel is a biological drive pushing you to seek connection. However, you must be very careful about how you soothe this loneliness. The immediate temptation is to find a romantic rebound. You might crave the validation of someone new telling you that you are attractive. You might want to download a dating app just to feel a fleeting sense of hope. But using a new person to numb the pain of an old person is like taking a painkiller for a broken bone without actually putting the bone in a cast. The pain goes away temporarily, but the wound is healing completely crooked. Instead of seeking romantic validation, you must fiercely lean into platonic love. Platonic love, the love from friends and family, is the most powerful, grounding force you can access right now. Reconnect with the people who knew you before this relationship existed. Call the friend you have not spoken to in months. Go to your parents' house for Sunday dinner. Sit on the couch with a friend and watch a terrible movie. You do not even have to talk about the breakup. In fact, it is better if you just exist in their presence. Spending time with people who love you unconditionally releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which naturally counteracts the stress hormones flooding your body. It reminds your brain that you are still part of a tribe. You are not abandoned. You are still profoundly loved. As you navigate these brutal first 12 days, I want you to remember one incredibly important principle. Healing is an active process, not a passive one. You cannot just sit in a dark room and wait for time to heal your wounds. Time does absolutely nothing on its own. It is what you do with that time that dictates your recovery. Every single time you choose to write in your journal instead of checking their social media, you are actively healing. Every time you cry until your chest feels hollow, and then wash your face and drink a glass of water, you are actively healing. Every time you set a boundary with a mutual friend, you are actively healing. You are entirely responsible for your own rescue. This might sound intimidating, but it is actually the most empowering realization you can have. Your ex-partner broke your heart, but they do not hold the key to your recovery. You hold the key. Your brain is a miraculous machine capable of profound rewiring. Your body is a resilient vessel capable of flushing out toxic stress. You have all the tools you need built right into your biology. There will be moments in the coming days where the pain feels so sharp that you will drop to your knees. There will be nights where sleep feels impossible and the silence of your room is deafening. When those moments happen, I want you to place your hand flat against the center of your chest. Feel the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat. That heartbeat is proof of your survival. It has kept you alive through every single bad day you have ever experienced. It is beating for you. It is fighting for you. Do not try to rush this detox phase. Do not shame yourself for being messy, sad, or exhausted. Treat yourself as if you are recovering from a major surgery, because emotionally you are. Give yourself permission to rest. Feed your body nourishing foods. Drink massive amounts of water. Protect your environment. Keep your journal close. Let the tears flow freely until the well runs dry. You are doing the hard, grueling work of cleaning out the wound. It stings, it burns, and it is uncomfortable. But once this emotional debris is cleared away, the real foundation can be poured. You are surviving the hardest part of the withdrawal. Every hour you make it through is a testament to your incredible strength. Keep taking it one step, one breath, 1 minute at a time. Your new life is waiting for you just on the other side of this pain, and you are getting closer to it every single day. Chapter 3. Rewiring your mind. Welcome to the third phase of your recovery. You have survived the initial shock. You have made it through the brutal first 12 days. In the beginning, your only job was to stop the active bleeding. You cut off contact to starve the dopamine addiction. You cleared your physical space of agonizing triggers. You allowed yourself to cry and release the toxic buildup of stress hormones. That was the detox phase. It was incredibly painful, but you did it. You are still standing. Now we are entering an entirely new chapter of your healing journey. This is where we shift from merely surviving the pain to actively rebuilding your life. This chapter is all about rewiring your mind. You are no longer just a passenger on this painful ride. Starting today, you are the architect of your new brain. To understand how you are going to heal, you must first understand a fundamental rule of neuroscience. It is called Hebbian theory, named after the neuropsychologist Donald Hebb. The rule is simple. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Your brain is made up of billions of neurons, which are tiny cells that communicate with each other through electrical and chemical signals. Every time you think a thought, feel an emotion, or take an action, a specific sequence of these neurons lights up. When you repeat that thought or action over and over again, the connection between those specific neurons becomes stronger, faster, and more efficient. Think of your brain like a vast, dense jungle. The first time you walk through this jungle, you have to use a machete to hack your way through the thick vines and bushes. It is slow, difficult, and exhausting work. But if you walk that exact same path the next day, it is a little bit easier. If you walk that path every single day for 2 years, it eventually becomes a wide, perfectly paved superhighway. Cars can drive down this highway at 100 miles per hour without any resistance. When you were deeply in love with your ex-partner, your brain spent months or even years building a massive neural superhighway dedicated entirely to them. Every time you received a good morning text message, every time you shared a joke, every time you slept next to them, you were paving that highway. Your brain became incredibly efficient at traveling down the road of that relationship. Now that the relationship is over, that massive superhighway is still sitting right there in the center of your brain. It is the easiest, most familiar route for your thoughts to take. This is exactly why your mind constantly wanders back to them. This is why you wake up thinking about them. Your thoughts are simply taking the path of least resistance. Many people try to heal by actively trying to destroy that old highway. They tell themselves, I am not going to think about my ex today. But trying to suppress a thought is like trying to stand in the middle of a superhighway and stop the speeding cars with your bare hands. It is impossible, and it only causes you more distress. You cannot magically delete the old pathways in your brain. But here is the incredible, miraculous news. Your brain has a feature called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means that your brain is like plastic. It is moldable, changeable, and constantly adapting to new environments. While you cannot destroy the old highway, you have the absolute power to build brand new roads. And the brain is highly efficient. It operates on a use-it-or-lose-it basis. If you spend all your time building and walking down a brand new path, your brain will eventually look at the old highway dedicated to your ex, realize that no one is driving on it anymore, and it will begin to dismantle it. Your brain will literally prune away the old connections to save energy. The memories will still be there, but the emotional charge, the deep, agonizing pain, will simply fade away. So how do we practically build these new roads? We have to overcome the biggest obstacle of heartbreak, which is a total lack of motivation. Right now, you probably do not want to do anything. You probably want to stay in bed, pull the covers over your head, and wait for the sadness to pass. You believe that you need to feel better before you can start doing things again. But modern psychology tells us that this is completely backwards. Motivation does not cause action. Action causes motivation. This psychological principle is called behavioral activation. When you are heartbroken, your lack of activity creates a dangerous downward spiral. You feel sad, so you stay in bed. Because you stay in bed, you do not experience anything positive or rewarding. Because you do not experience anything rewarding, you feel even more sad and exhausted. To break this cycle, you have to act from the outside in. You have to take action even when every single cell in your body is screaming at you to stay in bed. This brings us to your first crucial, actionable step of this chapter, the 5-minute rule. You are going to choose one small, healthy activity. It could be washing the dishes, going for a short walk around the block, reading a book, or doing a simple stretching routine. You are going to promise yourself that you will do this activity for exactly 5 minutes. Set a timer on your phone. If, after 5 minutes, you are utterly miserable and want to stop, you have full permission to stop and go back to bed. But what you will find, almost every single time, is that the hardest part is simply starting. Once you are in motion, physics takes over. An object in motion stays in motion. By forcing yourself to take just 5 minutes of action, you bypass the emotional resistance in your brain. You trick your mind into starting, and in doing so, you lay the very first brick of your new neural pathway. As we begin building these new pathways, we have to address the profound feeling of emptiness you are currently experiencing. Heartbreak does not just feel like you lost a person. It feels like you lost a fundamental part of yourself. You might look in the mirror and genuinely not know who you are anymore. To understand why this happens, we must look at the groundbreaking psychological research of Dr. Arthur Aron, a professor of psychology at Stony Brook University. Dr. Aron and his colleagues developed a highly influential psychological theory called the self-expansion model. According to this model, human beings have a core, fundamental motivation to expand their sense of self. We naturally want to grow, acquire new skills, and experience new perspectives. Dr. Aron discovered that one of the primary ways we achieve this expansion is through romantic relationships. When you fall deeply in love, you quite literally expand your identity to include your partner. Think back to your relationship. You likely started listening to music that your partner enjoyed. You might have adopted some of their political or social views. You probably spent time with their friends, making them your friends. You may have started eating foods you never liked before, or engaging in hobbies that were entirely theirs. Psychologically speaking, the boundary between you and your partner blurred. Your brain merged your identities into one shared existence. Their resources became your resources. Their joys became your joys. You experienced massive, intoxicating self-expansion. Therefore, when the relationship ends, you do not just experience sadness. You experience a brutal, psychological phenomenon called self-contraction. The shared identity is ripped apart. All of the sudden, the future you planned is gone. The social circle might be fractured. The hobbies you shared might now be too painful to continue. Your sense of self literally shrinks rapidly. This rapid contraction is what creates that physical, hollow feeling in the center of your chest. You are mourning the loss of the person, but you are also mourning the loss of your own expanded identity. Understanding this gives you a clear scientific roadmap for how to cure the emptiness. If the problem is self-contraction, the cure is intentional, independent self-expansion. You have to rapidly flood your brain with brand new experiences, skills, and perspectives that have absolutely nothing to do with your ex-partner. You have to rebuild your identity brick by brick, and you have to make this new identity entirely your own. This is your second actionable step. You must commit to learning one entirely new skill or engaging in one entirely new hobby over the next 2 weeks. It must be something your ex had absolutely no interest in. It must be something that belongs only to you. If your ex hated the outdoors, you are going to go take an introductory rock climbing class. If your ex was an awful cook, you are going to take a culinary masterclass online. You could learn the basic chords on a cheap acoustic guitar. You could download a language learning application and spend 20 minutes a day learning conversational Spanish. You could buy some cheap canvases and follow along with a painting tutorial. When you engage in a novel learning experience, something magical happens in your brain. Your brain loves novelty. When it is faced with a brand new challenge, it is forced to completely disengage from the rumination loop. You cannot obsess over your past relationship while you are simultaneously trying to balance on a rock climbing wall or figure out how to conjugate a foreign verb. The new task requires too much cognitive bandwidth. Furthermore, as you make tiny bits of progress in this new skill, your brain releases dopamine. This is not the addictive, dependent dopamine you got from your ex. This is achievement dopamine. It is the dopamine of competence and self-reliance. Every time you play a correct chord on that guitar, your brain whispers, I can do this. I am capable. I am growing. This process rapidly rebuilds your self-concept and heals the trauma of self-contraction. To further assist in rewiring your brain, we must now utilize one of the most powerful, scientifically proven healing environments on planet Earth. We need to talk about nature. In the first chapter, we briefly mentioned that going outside and moving your body helps release endorphins. But as we enter this deep rewiring phase, we need to look at the exact science of what nature does to a traumatized brain. When you are heartbroken, your mind is plagued by a specific type of thinking called rumination. Rumination is the process of continuously thinking about the same dark, sad thoughts. It is the endless loop of asking yourself why they left, what you did wrong, and how unfair it all is. Rumination is highly toxic. It is the primary predictor of clinical depression. You cannot rewire your brain if you are constantly stuck in a rumination loop. To combat this, we look to a landmark study conducted by Dr. Gregory Bratman and his research team at Stanford University. Dr. Bratman wanted to know if the physical environment could turn off the brain's rumination machine. He gathered a group of healthy adults and gave them a questionnaire to measure their current levels of rumination. Then he put them into a functional magnetic resonance imaging machine, which is a brain scanner. He specifically looked at an area of the brain called the subgenual prefrontal cortex. This specific region of the brain becomes highly active when a person is ruminating and focusing on negative emotions. Dr. Bratman then split the participants into two groups. The first group was instructed to take a 90-minute walk along a massive, noisy, busy, multi-lane highway in an urban environment. The second group was instructed to take a 90-minute walk in a lush, green, natural environment surrounded by trees and wildlife. After the 90-minute walks, both groups were brought back to the laboratory, given the questionnaire again, and put back into the brain scanners. The results were astonishing. The people who walked along the busy urban highway showed absolutely no changes. Their rumination levels remained exactly the same, and their subgenual prefrontal cortex was just as active as before. However, the group that walked in the natural environment showed massive improvements. Their self-reported levels of negative rumination dropped significantly. More importantly, the brain scans provided hard physical evidence. The neural activity in their subgenual prefrontal cortex had visibly decreased. Walking in nature literally quieted the part of the brain responsible for obsessive negative thinking. This happens because of a concept called attention restoration theory. When you are in an urban environment or when you are staring at a computer screen or a smartphone, your brain is forced to use directed attention. You have to actively focus to avoid traffic, answer emails, or process fast-moving information. This drains your cognitive energy and leaves you mentally exhausted, which makes you highly vulnerable to negative thoughts. But when you step into nature, your brain shifts into a state of soft fascination. The gentle movement of leaves in the wind, the sound of water flowing, and the fractal patterns of tree branches naturally capture your attention without draining your energy. This state of soft fascination allows your cognitive resources to rest, recharge, and rebuild. So the question becomes, exactly how much nature do you need to experience these neurological benefits? We turn to another massive, highly important study led by Dr. Matthew White at the European Centre for Environment and Human Health at the University of Exeter. Dr. White and his team analysed data from 20,000 people across the United Kingdom. They wanted to find the exact dosage of nature required to produce significant improvements in health and psychological well-being. They discovered a strict, hard boundary. The magic number is 120 minutes, 2 hours per week. People who spent at least 120 minutes a week in natural environments reported significantly higher levels of health and well-being compared to those who did not. The researchers found that it did not matter how those 2 hours were achieved. You could do one long 2-hour hike on a Sunday, or you could do 4 30-minute walks through a local park during the week. The cumulative dose was what mattered. However, people who spent 100 minutes or 90 minutes did not show the same dramatic benefits. You must cross the threshold of 120 minutes. This is your third actionable step. Starting this week, you are going to prescribe yourself 120 minutes of nature. You are going to treat this exactly like a mandatory medication prescribed by a doctor. Find a local park, a forest trail, a beach, or even a quiet botanical garden. You do not need to do strenuous exercise. You can walk slowly, or you can simply sit on a wooden bench beneath a large tree. But there are strict rules for this nature prescription. You must leave your headphones at home. Do not listen to a podcast. Do not listen to an audiobook. Do not listen to sad music. You must put your phone on airplane mode and put it deep inside your pocket. You must allow your senses to fully interact with the natural world. Look at the specific shades of green on the leaves. Listen to the wind rustling through the branches. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. Allow your brain to enter that healing state of soft fascination. Give your subgenual prefrontal cortex the opportunity to cool down. Let nature absorb your rumination as you actively rewire your brain through new skills and nature exposure. We must also address the physical building blocks your brain requires to undergo this massive construction project. You cannot build a new house without bricks and mortar. In the human body, the bricks and mortar of mood regulation and neuroplasticity are chemical neurotransmitters. We have already talked about dopamine, the reward chemical. Now we must talk about the most important stabilizing chemical in your entire body, serotonin. Serotonin is the neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of well-being, emotional stability, calmness, and happiness. When your serotonin levels are optimal, you feel grounded and capable of handling stress. When your relationship ended, the extreme shock and trauma depleted your serotonin reserves. This depletion is why you feel anxious, jittery, unable to sleep, and prone to sudden crying spells. Your emotional shock absorbers have been completely worn down. Naturally, you might think that to fix a chemical imbalance in your brain, you need to focus entirely on your brain. But this is where modern science introduces a mind-bending reality. While serotonin dictates the mood in your brain is actually not the primary manufacturer of this chemical. An estimated 90% of the serotonin in your entire body is produced in your digestive tract. It is produced in your gut. This astonishing fact completely changes how we must approach heartbreak recovery. Your gut is lined with hundreds of millions of neurons, forming what scientists call the enteric nervous system. This system is so massive and complex that it is frequently referred to as your second brain. Your primary brain in your skull and your second brain in your gut are constantly communicating with each other through a massive information superhighway called the vagus nerve. To understand how this connection dictates your heartbreak recovery, we must look at the brilliant research of Dr. Elaine Xiao, a biologist at the University of California, Los Angeles, and the California Institute of Technology. Dr. Xiao studies the intricate relationship between the bacteria living in our digestive tract and the functioning of our brain. Within your gut, there are specialized cells called enterochromaffin cells. These cells are the actual factories that produce your serotonin. But Dr. Xiao discovered that these factories do not work on their own. They rely heavily on the trillions of microorganisms, the good bacteria, living inside your intestines. In a profound study, Dr. Xiao and her team examined mice that were raised in completely sterile environments, meaning they had absolutely no bacteria in their guts. They found that these germ-free mice produced approximately 60% less serotonin than mice with healthy gut bacteria. The enterochromaffin cells were essentially shut down because they lacked the specific signals from the gut microbes. However, when the researchers reintroduced healthy, normal bacteria into the guts of these sterile mice, their serotonin production skyrocketed back to normal levels. The science is crystal clear. The bacteria in your stomach directly control the production of the chemical that regulates your happiness. Now think about what you have been doing to your stomach since your heart was broken. When people go through severe emotional trauma, their diet completely collapses. You might be skipping meals entirely because your stomach is tied in knots. When you do eat, you're likely reaching for extreme comfort foods. You might be surviving on heavily processed snacks, massive amounts of refined sugar, and greasy fast food. You might be drinking excessive amounts of alcohol to numb the pain before bed. While these choices are completely understandable coping mechanisms, they are biologically disastrous for your recovery. Diets high in sugar, alcohol, and processed foods actively destroy the healthy bacteria in your gut. By eating this way, you are launching an attack on the very microbes that are responsible for producing your serotonin. You are literally starving your brain of the chemical it desperately needs to make you feel calm and stable. The worse you eat, the worse your gut microbiome becomes, which means your serotonin levels plummet further, which makes the pain of your heartbreak feel 10 times more agonizing. It is a vicious biological trap. Therefore, your fourth actionable step in this chapter is a massive nutritional intervention. You do not need to go on a restrictive, punishing diet. You do not need to count calories. Right now, food is not about weight loss or physical appearance. Food is strictly about medicinal chemistry. You need to view every single meal as an opportunity to feed your gut bacteria so they can manufacture serotonin for your brain. How do we do this? First, you must introduce fermented foods into your daily routine. Fermented foods are packed with live, healthy bacteria that will immediately begin repopulating your gut microbiome. Start eating unsweetened yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, or drinking kombucha. Just one serving a day can begin to repair the damage caused by stress and poor eating. Second, you must feed those healthy bacteria with soluble fiber. Bacteria love fiber. Focus on eating oats, apples, beans, lentils, and dark leafy greens. Third, you must provide your body with the raw physical material it needs to construct the serotonin molecule. Serotonin is synthesized from an essential amino acid called tryptophan. Your body cannot make tryptophan on its own. You must get it from your food. Make a conscious effort to eat foods rich in tryptophan, such as turkey, chicken, eggs, pumpkin seeds, almonds, and peanuts. Finally, you must drastically reduce your intake of refined sugar and alcohol. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. It might help you fall asleep for the first hour, but it completely destroys your deep sleep architecture and causes a massive spike in anxiety the next morning. It also wreaks havoc on your gut lining. For the remainder of this 30-day healing protocol, treat alcohol as an absolute poison to your recovery. Drink water, herbal teas, and sparkling water instead. As you implement these changes, you will start to notice subtle but profound shifts. The crushing weight on your chest will begin to feel a fraction lighter. The morning panic attacks will become less severe and less frequent. The fog in your mind will start to clear. This is not magic. This is the predictable, reliable result of aligning your actions with human biology. I want you to take a moment right now to acknowledge the immense power you hold. When a relationship ends, the most damaging psychological effect is the feeling of total powerlessness. You feel like a victim of circumstances you could not control. You feel like your happiness was placed in the hands of another person, and they dropped it. But look at what you are doing right now. You are learning the inner workings of your own mind. You are actively building new neural pathways by challenging yourself to learn new things. You are literally restructuring your brain's physical architecture. You are taking a proactive, medicinal approach to nature to cool down your brain's rumination center. You are strategically feeding your gut microbiome to optimize your neurochemistry and flood your body with serotonin. None of this is passive. You're not waiting for time to heal you. You are wielding time like a tool. You're reclaiming your sovereignty. The person who broke your heart does not control your neuroplasticity. They do not control your gut microbiome. They do not control your ability to learn, to grow, and to rebuild. You are the sole owner of your biological machinery. The process of rewiring your mind is not perfectly linear. There will still be days where you stumble. There will be moments where you accidentally turn down that old, familiar neural superhighway and find yourself missing them terribly. When that happens, do not panic. Do not punish yourself. Do not view it as a failure. It is simply a tiny detour. Recognize that you are on the old road. Gently turn the steering wheel and guide your mind back to the new path you are building. Every single time you choose to go for a walk in the forest instead of checking their social media, you are winning. Every time you choose to eat a nutritious meal instead of drinking alcohol, you are winning. Every time you sit down to practice your new hobby for 5 minutes, even when you feel exhausted, you are achieving a massive victory for your future self. You are currently in the construction zone of your life. It is messy, it is noisy, and it takes an incredible amount of hard work. But the foundation you are pouring right now is completely unshakable because it is built entirely on your own strength. You are proving to yourself that you are capable of rescuing yourself. You are expanding your identity far beyond the confines of your past relationship. Keep your head up. Trust the biological process. Feed your gut, immerse yourself in nature, and force yourself to take small actions every single day. The new roads are being built. The new superhighway is taking shape. Your brain is healing, and your heart is following right behind it. Keep moving forward, one brave step at a time. Chapter 4. The Secret Weapon of Self-Compassion. Welcome to the 4th phase of your healing. So far, you have taken massive steps to protect your physical environment and rewire your daily habits. You have stopped contacting the person who broke your heart. You have cleared your physical space of painful triggers. You have started moving your body, learning new skills, and feeding your gut microbiome the nutrients it needs to produce serotonin. You have been doing incredible work on the outside. Now we must turn our attention to the inside. We must examine the invisible, silent world of your internal dialogue. This chapter is entirely focused on the way you speak to yourself when you are all alone. When a relationship ends, the silence of your home can feel deafening. But the truth is, your mind is never actually silent. Right now, your mind is likely filled with a relentless, punishing voice. It is the voice of the inner critic. This voice tells you that the breakup was entirely your fault. It replays your past mistakes on a continuous loop. It asks why you were not good enough, attractive enough, or successful enough to make them stay. It tells you that you are fundamentally broken and that you will never find love again. When you lie in bed at night trying to sleep, this voice becomes louder and more aggressive. You might think that this cruel internal monologue is a reflection of the truth. You might believe that you deserve this punishment. But modern neuroscience completely debunks this idea. This punishing voice is not the voice of truth. It is simply the mechanical output of a specific brain network that has gone into overdrive. This network is called the default mode network. The default mode network is a collection of interacting brain regions, including the medial prefrontal cortex and the posterior cingulate cortex. This network is highly active when you are awake but not focused on the outside world. When you are daydreaming, recalling memories, or simply lying in bed doing nothing, your default mode network turns on. For evolutionary reasons, This network is heavily biased towards social positioning and threat detection. Thousands of years ago, your survival depended on your status within your tribe. If you made a mistake and were cast out of the tribe, you would not survive in the wilderness. Therefore, your default mode network evolved to constantly scan your past behavior for social mistakes, analyzing what you did wrong so you would not repeat it. When your heart gets broken, your brain interprets this romantic rejection as a massive social threat. You have essentially been cast out of your tiny two-person tribe. This triggers your default mode network into a state of hyperactive panic. It begins obsessively digging through your memories, looking for the exact moment you ruined everything. It generates endless scenarios of what you should have said or what you could have done differently. It creates catastrophic predictions about your future isolation. This hyperactive network is the biological engine behind your relentless negative self-talk. It is a primitive alarm system that is misfiring. Understanding the biology of the default mode network is incredibly liberating. It means that the cruel things you are telling yourself are not objective facts. They are just the noisy exhaust fumes of an overactive threat detection system. You are not a failure. Your brain is simply trying to solve a puzzle that cannot be solved. But knowing this is only half the battle. You still have to figure out how to quiet this network and soothe the pain it is causing. Society often tells us that the cure for feeling bad about ourselves is to build high self-esteem. We are told to stand in front of the mirror and tell ourselves how amazing, perfect, and superior we are. We are told to focus on all the reasons we are better than our ex-partner. But self-esteem is a highly flawed and fragile concept, especially during a crisis. Self-esteem is entirely based on evaluation and comparison. To have high self-esteem, you have to feel like you are succeeding. You have to feel above average. You have to feel like you are winning at life. When you are going through a brutal breakup, you do not feel like a winner. You feel rejected, discarded, and profoundly imperfect. If you try to force high self-esteem right now, your brain will reject it. Your brain will look at the evidence of the breakup and tell you that you are lying to yourself. Self-esteem abandons you exactly when you need support the most because it is conditional upon your success. This brings us to the most powerful, scientifically proven antidote to the pain of heartbreak. We must replace the pursuit of self-esteem with the practice of self-compassion. To understand the sheer power of self-compassion in healing a broken heart, we turn to the landmark research of Dr. David Sbarra, a clinical psychologist at the University of Arizona. Dr. Sbarra wanted to know why some people recover from romantic separation relatively quickly, while others remain trapped in bitterness and depression for years. He suspected that the way people treated themselves during the initial shock of the breakup was the determining factor. To test his theory, Dr. Sbarra and his research team recruited over 100 individuals who had recently gone through a divorce or a severe separation. These were people whose lives had been completely turned upside down. The researchers brought these individuals into the laboratory and asked them to perform a deeply uncomfortable task. They asked the participants to think about their ex-partner and then speak completely freely for 4 minutes into an audio recorder about their separation. The researchers wanted to capture the raw, unfiltered stream of consciousness of these heartbroken individuals. 4 independent judges then listened to these audio recordings. The judges carefully analyzed the language used by each participant. They were specifically listening for instances of self-compassion. They looked for people who spoke about their own pain with warmth, understanding, and a forgiving tone. They then tracked the emotional recovery of all 100 participants over the next 9 months, checking in with them at the 3-month, 6-month, and 9-month marks. The results of this study completely changed the way psychologists view heartbreak recovery. The researchers found that the individuals who displayed high levels of self-compassion during that initial 4-minute recording showed a dramatically different trajectory of healing. Over the next 9 months, these highly self-compassionate individuals reported significantly fewer intrusive negative thoughts. They had fewer bad dreams about their ex-partner. They experienced drastically lower levels of depression and anxiety compared to the participants who were harsh and critical of themselves. Dr. Sbarra concluded that self-compassion was the single greatest predictor of a successful emotional recovery. It was far more important than the length of the relationship, who initiated the breakup, or the level of self-esteem the person possessed. The people who recovered were not the ones who believed they were perfect. They were the ones who allowed themselves to be imperfect and offered themselves kindness anyway. So what exactly is self-compassion, and how do you practice it when you feel like your world has ended? The pioneer of self-compassion research is Dr. Kristin Neff, a professor of psychology at the University of Texas. Dr. Neff identified that true self-compassion is not about throwing a pity party for yourself. It is a highly active, structured psychological practice consisting of 3 distinct pillars. You must understand and implement all 3 of these pillars to heal your brain. The first pillar is self-kindness versus self-judgment. Self-judgment is the default setting of your brain right now. It is the voice that calls you stupid for trusting them. It is the voice that says you are too old, too damaged, or too difficult to love. Self-kindness is the active, intentional choice to stop this brutal attack. It is the act of speaking to yourself with the exact same warm, gentle, and supportive tone that you would use with your absolute best friend. Imagine your closest friend came to you at 2 in the morning weeping because their partner just left them. What would you say to them? You would never look them in the eye and list all of their character flaws. You would never tell them that they deserve to be abandoned. You would put your arm around them. You would tell them that they are worthy of love. You would tell them that this pain is temporary and that you are there for them no matter what. You must begin to direct this exact same radical kindness inward. You must become your own fiercely protective best friend. The second pillar of self-compassion is common humanity versus isolation. Heartbreak creates a powerful illusion of terminal uniqueness. When you are suffering, your brain convinces you that you are the only person in the world who has ever felt this specific, agonizing pain. You look at couples holding hands on the street and you feel like a complete outcast. You scroll through social media and see pictures of happy families, and you believe that everyone else has figured out the secret to love except you. This sense of isolation dramatically multiplies your suffering. Common humanity is the recognition that suffering, failure, and heartbreak are universal human experiences. You are not an outcast. You are simply participating in the shared human condition. Right now, at this exact moment, there are millions of people across the globe who are crying over a broken relationship. There are millions of people lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how they will survive the next day. You are part of a massive, invisible tribe of healing hearts. Acknowledging this shared humanity strips away the shame of the breakup. It reminds you that your pain is not a punishment for being defective. Your pain is just proof that you are human and that you were brave enough to risk falling in love. The third and final pillar of self-compassion is mindfulness versus over-identification. We discussed mindfulness briefly in the context of being in nature, but here it applies directly to your emotional state. Over-identification happens when a sad thought enters your mind, and you allow it to completely consume your identity. If the thought "I am lonely" pops into your head, over-identification turns that thought into a permanent life sentence. You begin to believe that you are a fundamentally lonely person who will never find connection. Mindfulness is the practice of observing your negative thoughts and emotions without judgment, and more importantly, without attaching yourself to them. It is the ability to step back and watch the thought pass through your mind like a dark cloud passing across the sky. You acknowledge the cloud, but you do not become the cloud. When a painful wave of grief hits you, mindfulness allows you to say, "I am currently experiencing a feeling of profound sadness." This is a very different statement than saying, "My entire life is a tragedy." Mindfulness prevents your emotions from hijacking your entire sense of self. Now that we understand the science and the three pillars of self-compassion, we must translate these concepts into concrete, actionable steps. You cannot simply think your way into self-compassion. You have to physically and verbally practice it until it becomes the new default pathway in your brain. This brings us to the first actionable step of this chapter, the self-compassion break. This is a specific exercise developed by Dr. Kristin Neff that combines all three pillars into one immediate intervention. You are going to use this exercise every single time you feel a massive wave of panic, sadness, or self-loathing wash over you. When the default mode network starts screaming at you, this is how you shut it down. First, when the pain hits, you must pause whatever you are doing and physically change your posture. Take your right hand and place it flat against the center of your chest, directly over your heart. This physical touch is not just symbolic. Science shows that warm, soothing physical touch activates the parasympathetic nervous system and stimulates the release of oxytocin, which naturally lowers cortisol levels. Even if the touch comes from your own hand, your mammalian brain still registers it as a signal of safety and comfort. With your hand on your heart, you will speak 3 specific sentences out loud. You must say them out loud to force your brain out of the internal rumination loop and into the auditory processing center. The first sentence targets the pillar of mindfulness. You will say, "This is a moment of intense suffering." By saying this, you are validating your own pain. You are not trying to push it away. You are not trying to pretend everything is fine. You are simply stating the objective reality of the present moment. The second sentence targets the pillar of common humanity. You will say, "Suffering is a normal part of life, and I am not alone in this pain." By saying this, you instantly connect yourself to the millions of other humans who are surviving a broken heart today. You dissolve the toxic illusion of isolation. The third sentence targets the pillar of self-kindness. You will say, "May I be kind to myself in this moment, and may I give myself the compassion I desperately need." By saying this, you officially shift your internal role from a harsh judge to a loving caretaker. You must practice this self-compassion break multiple times a day if necessary. Do it in your car. Do it in the bathroom mirror at work. Do it while lying in bed at night. At first, it will feel incredibly awkward. You might even feel a strong internal resistance to being kind to yourself. That resistance is just the old neural pathways fighting for survival. Push through the awkwardness. Keep placing your hand on your heart. Keep speaking the words out loud. With enough repetition, this compassionate response will become your automatic reaction to emotional pain. The second actionable step in this chapter requires a pen and paper. We are going to take the expressive writing exercise from chapter 2 and elevate it to the next level. You are going to write a letter of radical forgiveness and compassion to yourself. Many people remain stuck in heartbreak because they are waiting for an apology that is never going to come. They desperately want their ex-partner to call them, validate their pain, apologize for the betrayal, and give them a sense of closure. But waiting for someone else to heal your wound is incredibly dangerous. It leaves your emotional recovery entirely in the hands of the person who injured you. True closure is not something someone else gives you. Closure is something you manufacture for yourself, and the most powerful way to create closure is by becoming the source of your own validation. Find a quiet place and open your journal. You are going to write a letter to yourself, but you must write it from the perspective of an imaginary, unconditionally loving friend. This friend sees all of your flaws, knows all of your mistakes, and loves you completely anyway. Start the letter by addressing yourself by your first name, or Then begin to validate the profound difficulty of what you are going through. Have this imaginary friend acknowledge how hard you tried to make the relationship work. Have them acknowledge the depth of your loyalty and the purity of your intentions. Write down the exact words you have been desperately wanting to hear from someone else. Next, address the mistakes you made in the relationship. We all make mistakes when we are trying to navigate the complexities of love. Perhaps you were too needy. Perhaps you were emotionally distant. Perhaps you ignored massive red flags because you were terrified of being alone. Write these mistakes down, but then forgive yourself for them immediately. Have the imaginary friend write, "I forgive you for making mistakes. You were operating with the knowledge and emotional capacity you had at the time. You are a human being, and human beings are perfectly imperfect. You are allowed to learn through stumbling." Finally, end the letter with a fierce declaration of future support. Have the imaginary friend promise to never abandon you. Write, "I will stay by your side through every single dark night. I will protect you. I will cherish you. I will help you rebuild a beautiful life." When you finish writing this letter, read it out loud to yourself slowly. Let the words sink into your nervous system. You are actively rewiring your brain to stop seeking external validation. You are proving to yourself that the deepest, most unconditional well of love exists entirely within your own mind. Fold this letter up and keep it in your wallet or on your nightstand. Whenever the self-blame returns, pull the letter out and read it again. The third actionable step is conquering the paralyzing trap of the what-ifs. The what-ifs are the most common symptom of a hyperactive default mode network. What if I had just compromised a little more? What if we had gone to therapy? What if they change and become the perfect partner for the next person they date? These questions are psychological poison. They drag your mind out of the reality of the present moment and force you to suffer in a fictional universe that does not exist. You must develop a ruthless cognitive strategy to shut down the what-ifs the moment they begin. You're going to use a technique called cognitive labeling. When a what-if thought enters your mind, your natural reaction is to engage with it and try to answer the question. You must stop doing this immediately. Instead, you are going to label the thought as a mechanical error. The moment you catch yourself spiraling into an alternate reality, say the word "stop" out loud. Then label the thought by saying, "I am experiencing a what-if symptom. This is just my default mode network misfiring. It is not real. It is a biological illusion." Once you have labeled the thought, you must immediately anchor yourself back in the present reality. The most effective way to anchor yourself is to state a completely objective, undeniable fact about your current situation. Tell yourself, "The absolute reality is that the relationship has ended. We are no longer together. I am sitting in my room, and I am safe. I choose to focus on the reality of today." This process of catching, labeling, and anchoring requires immense vigilance. In the beginning, you might have to do this 50 times a day. Do not get frustrated. Every single time you catch a what-if and shut it down, you are weakening that toxic neural pathway. You are training your brain to stay grounded in the truth. You are refusing to let a ghost from the past steal the energy you need for your future. As we progress through this chapter, we must also address the physical toll that self-hatred takes on your body. When you constantly attack yourself mentally, your physical posture changes. You begin to slouch. You cross your arms over your chest to protect your heart. You look down at the ground when you walk. Your body physically mimics the shape of a defeated person. This physical collapse sends a continuous feedback loop of sadness directly back to your brain. To break this loop, you must engage in our fourth actionable step, compassionate posture correction. Your body and your brain are a two-way street. Just as your emotions change your posture, changing your posture can chemically alter your emotions. This is closely related to the science of embodied cognition. When you intentionally arrange your body into a posture of confidence and openness, your brain reads those physical signals and begins to lower the production of stress hormones. Starting today, you must conduct a posture audit every single hour. Set a gentle alarm on your phone to remind you. When the alarm goes off, scan your physical body. Are your shoulders hunched up near your ears? Is your jaw tightly clenched? Is your chest caved inward? If so, take a massive deep breath and physically reset your skeleton. Roll your shoulders back and drop them down. Unclench your jaw and let your tongue fall away from the roof of your mouth. Lift your chin slightly so you are looking straight ahead, not down at the floor. Open your chest completely. This open posture is the physical manifestation of self-compassion. It tells your nervous system that there is no predator chasing you. It tells your brain that you are safe enough to expose your chest to the world. Walking with an open, upright posture requires vulnerability, but it commands internal respect. You cannot physically hate yourself when your shoulders are back and your head is held high. You are instructing your body to carry you with the dignity you absolutely deserve. It is crucial to recognize that practicing self-compassion does not mean you are making excuses for bad behavior. Many people resist self-compassion because they believe that if they are completely kind to themselves, they will become lazy, complacent, and never improve. They believe that brutal self-criticism is the only thing that keeps them accountable, but psychological studies show the exact opposite is true. Research indicates that highly self-compassionate people are actually far more likely to take responsibility for their mistakes than highly self-critical people. Why? Because when you are self-compassionate, making a mistake does not destroy your entire sense of worth. You create a safe internal environment where you can look at your flaws honestly without being terrified of punishment. You can say, "Yes, I made a major mistake in how I communicated with my partner. I see the error, and because I love myself, I am going to work hard to improve my communication skills for the future." Self-criticism paralyzes you with shame. Self-compassion motivates you with care. Think of a supportive athletic coach versus a deeply abusive coach. The abusive coach screams in your face when you drop the ball, making you terrified to ever step back onto the field. The supportive coach puts a hand on your shoulder, tells you that everyone drops the ball sometimes, and then helps you practice your catching technique until you master it. You must fire the abusive coach inside your head and hire the supportive coach. As you navigate these days of internal rewiring, you are going to encounter moments of profound exhaustion. Fighting your default mode network and actively choosing kindness takes a tremendous amount of cognitive energy. There will be evenings where you feel completely drained. When you hit this wall of exhaustion, the most compassionate thing you can do is simply go to sleep. Do not force yourself to stay awake reading self-help articles or analyzing your progress. Give yourself the grace of a full night's rest. Sleep is the ultimate reset button for a tired brain. I want you to take a long, honest look at how far you have already come. You are doing the grueling, invisible work that most people spend their entire lives running away from. You are not numbing the pain with distractions. You are not jumping into a toxic rebound relationship to mask the emptiness. You are sitting in the fire of your own discomfort and forging a completely new identity. You are learning how to become your own sanctuary. The person who broke your heart may have taken many things from you. They may have taken the future you planned together. They may have taken your sense of security, but they cannot take your ability to be kind to yourself. Your self-compassion is an impenetrable fortress that no one can ever breach. It is your secret weapon. Every single time you choose to forgive yourself for a past mistake, you are reinforcing the walls of that fortress. Every time you place your hand over your heart and speak words of comfort, you are expanding your capacity for unconditional love. You are realizing that the love you have been desperately trying to get from someone else has been inside of you this entire time. Do not expect perfection. You will still have moments where the inner critic slips through the cracks and whispers something cruel. When that happens, simply catch it. Smile at your own humanity. Label it as a misfiring circuit and return to the practice of grace. You are retraining a mind that has spent decades learning how to be harsh. It will take time, patience, and relentless repetition. You are entirely worthy of the effort. You are entirely worthy of the healing. Your heart is mending stronger at the broken places. Keep practicing your words of kindness. Keep standing tall with your shoulders back. You are a survivor of heartbreak, armed with the most powerful psychological tool in existence. Keep going. The worst of the internal storm is finally breaking, and the sunlight of your new life is just beginning to show. Chapter 5. Reclaiming You. Welcome to the final phase of your 30-day journey. If you have made it this far, you should pause right now and acknowledge your incredible resilience. You survived the initial shock and the agonizing biological withdrawal of the first week. You successfully navigated the painful emotional detox by allowing yourself to cry and clear your physical environment. You actively started rewiring your neural pathways by learning new skills and feeding your brain the nutrients it desperately needed. You learned how to silence the harsh inner critic by using the absolute power of self-compassion. You have done the dark, grueling, invisible work of healing. Now, as we enter these final days, our focus shifts entirely to the future. This chapter is not about surviving anymore. This chapter is about stepping out of the wreckage and reclaiming your independent identity. When a relationship shatters, it feels like an earthquake has destroyed the house you were living in. Most people look at the rubble and think that healing means simply rebuilding the exact same house, just trying to get things back to the way they were before the disaster. Society often encourages this mindset. We tell heartbroken people that they will bounce back. But bouncing back implies returning to your original shape. True healing from a profound emotional trauma is not about returning to who you used to be. The person you were before this heartbreak is gone. True healing is about allowing the earthquake to transform you into a completely new, stronger, and wiser human being. To understand this transformation, we turn to the groundbreaking research of Dr. Richard Tedeschi and Dr. Lawrence Calhoun, psychologists at the University of North Carolina. For decades, psychology focused almost entirely on the negative consequences of trauma, such as post-traumatic stress disorder. But Dr. Tedeschi and Dr. Calhoun noticed something incredible while working with people who had survived severe life crises, including bereavements, accidents, and profound losses. They noticed that many of these individuals did not just recover from their trauma, they actually experienced massive positive psychological changes. They coined a term for this phenomenon: post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth is entirely different from simple resilience. Resilience is the ability to resist being damaged by an event. Post-traumatic growth is what happens when the event completely destroys your core belief system, but you use the struggle of rebuilding to reach a higher level of functioning than you ever had before. Dr. Tedeschi uses the exact metaphor of the earthquake. When an earthquake destroys a city, you do not build the same fragile buildings over again. You use the opportunity to build stronger, more resilient structures with better foundations. Your heartbreak was an emotional earthquake. It shook the foundation of your core beliefs about love, trust, and your future. But now, the ground has settled, and you get to decide how to rebuild. Dr. Tedeschi and Dr. Calhoun identified 5 specific areas where post-traumatic growth occurs. The first is an increased appreciation for life. After a massive loss, the small mundane things suddenly seem infinitely more beautiful. The second is an improvement in relationships. Going through deep pain teaches you who your true friends are and increases your capacity for deep empathy. The third is a recognition of new possibilities. When your previous path is blocked, you are forced to explore entirely new avenues you never would have considered. The fourth is a greater sense of personal strength. Once you survive the absolute worst emotional pain imaginable, you realize that you are unbreakable. The fifth is spiritual or existential growth, a deeper understanding of your purpose in the world. Your first actionable step in this chapter is to plant the seeds for your own post-traumatic growth. You must actively search the rubble of your past relationship for the materials you will use to build your new life. Take out your journal and write down the 5 areas of growth: appreciation of life, improved relationships, new possibilities, personal strength, and existential growth. Under each category, force yourself to write down one positive truth that has emerged strictly because of the breakup. For example, under personal strength, you might write, "I survived the first week of withdrawal completely on my own, which proves I am stronger than I thought." Under improved relationships, you might write, "Because my partner left, I finally reconnected with my oldest friend, and our bond is stronger than ever." Under new possibilities, you might write, "I am no longer tied to their geographical location, so I can finally apply for that job in a different city." You are not saying that the breakup was a good thing. You are saying that because the breakup happened, you are actively choosing to extract growth from the suffering. You are taking the raw energy of the trauma and using it to fuel your personal evolution. As you construct this new version of yourself, we must address the psychological concept of narrative identity. Human beings are natural storytellers. We do not just live our lives as a series of random events. We take the events of our lives and weave them together into a coherent story. This internal story dictates how we see ourselves and what we believe we are capable of achieving. Dr. Dan McAdams, a renowned professor of psychology at Northwestern University, is the pioneer of the life story model of identity. Dr. McAdams has spent decades studying how the stories we tell about ourselves shape our mental health. He discovered that people generally fall into 2 distinct categories of storytelling: contamination narratives and redemption narratives. A contamination narrative is a story where a good, positive event is suddenly ruined by a terrible outcome. For example, a person with a contamination narrative might tell the story of their relationship by saying, "We fell madly in love. We had beautiful years together, but then they betrayed me and left. And now my entire life is ruined, and I will never trust anyone again." In this story, the negative ending completely erases all the prior good, and the person casts themselves in the role of the permanent helpless victim. Dr. McAdams found that people who structure their lives using contamination narratives suffer from significantly higher rates of anxiety, depression, and hopelessness. A redemption narrative is the exact opposite. It is a story where a period of profound suffering, failure, or loss is ultimately followed by a positive outcome or a deep lesson learned. A person with a redemption narrative might tell the exact same story of the breakup, but they structure it entirely differently. They might say, "I was heartbroken when they left me, and I felt completely lost for months. But going through that agonizing pain forced me to discover my own independence, and today I am a much stronger, more self-aware person who knows exactly what I want in a future partner." In this story, the suffering is not meaningless. The suffering is the catalyst for growth. The person casts themselves not as a victim, but as a hero who overcame a massive obstacle. Dr. McAdams found that individuals who utilize redemption narratives lead highly meaningful, purpose-driven, and psychologically healthy lives. Right now, your brain is likely running a contamination narrative on a continuous loop. You are looking at the ending of your relationship as proof that your life is ruined. But you have the power to change the script. You are the sole author of your life story. This brings us to your second actionable step, the narrative rewriting protocol. You are going to sit down with a piece of paper and intentionally write the redemption story of your heartbreak. You must write this story from the perspective of your future self, looking back at this exact moment in time from 5 years in the future. Write exactly how the pain of this breakup served as the ultimate turning point in your life. Write about how hitting rock bottom forced you to start exercising, how it forced you to reconnect with nature, and how it taught you the profound power of self-compassion. Describe the new, vibrant, independent person you became because you were forced to walk through the fire. Write about the incredible boundaries you developed and how those boundaries eventually led you to a much healthier, more fulfilling dynamic with others. You must write this narrative with absolute conviction. By doing this, you take the pen out of the hands of your trauma and you reclaim the authorship of your own destiny. You give your brain a roadmap for meaning. To pull your focus away from the past and lock it firmly onto your new future, we need to utilize the neurochemistry of anticipation. In Chapter 1, we learned that dopamine is the chemical of reward and motivation. But to truly hack your brain for happiness, you must understand a brilliant nuance about how dopamine actually works in the mammalian brain. Dr. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, conducted a famous experiment to understand the precise timing of dopamine release. He trained monkeys in a laboratory to understand a simple sequence. A light would turn on in their cage. This was the signal. Once the light turned on, the monkey had to press a lever 10 times. This was the work. After pressing the lever 10 times, the monkey received a piece of food. This was the reward. Dr. Sapolsky continuously measured the dopamine levels in the monkey's brains throughout this entire sequence. Most people assume that the massive spike in dopamine occurs at the very end of the sequence, when the monkey actually eats the food. But the brain scans revealed something completely different. The massive spike in dopamine occurred the exact moment the light turned on, before the monkey even touched the lever, and long before the food was delivered. The dopamine levels remained incredibly high while the monkey was doing the work, and then actually dropped once the reward was received. Dr. Sapolsky proved that dopamine is not about the pleasure of the reward itself. Dopamine is entirely about the anticipation of the reward. It is the chemical of looking forward. It is the biological engine of hope. Furthermore, Dr. Sapolsky introduced a variable of uncertainty. He changed the experiment so that after pressing the lever 10 times, the monkey only received the food 50% of the time. What happened to the dopamine levels when the reward became uncertain? The dopamine levels absolutely skyrocketed. They doubled in size. The brain loves the thrilling anticipation of a potential future reward. Right now, you are suffering because all of your anticipation was tied to your ex-partner. You were anticipating the trips you were going to take together, the holidays you were going to share, and the life you were going to build. When the relationship ended, the light in your cage was permanently turned off. You have absolutely nothing to look forward to, which means your brain has stopped producing anticipatory dopamine. You feel a heavy, crushing lethargy because your future looks like a blank, empty wall. Your third actionable step is to manually turn the light back on. You must manufacture anticipation. You need to give your brain a concrete, exciting event in the future to fixate on. You are going to plan one significant solo adventure for yourself that will take place exactly 3 months from today. This cannot be a vague idea. It must be highly specific. You might plan a weekend road trip to a national park you have never visited. You might buy a ticket to see your favorite band perform in a different city. You might book a spot in a weekend cooking retreat or an art workshop. Whatever it is, it must be something that genuinely excites you, and it must be something you do completely on your own or with a brand new group of people. Once you choose the event, you must immediately solidify it. Buy the concert ticket, reserve the hotel room, pay the deposit for the workshop, make it financially and physically real. Then, use the psychology of anticipation to your advantage. Spend 10 minutes every single day planning the details of this adventure. Research the restaurants you will eat at. Look at maps of the hiking trails you will conquer. Create a specific music playlist for the drive. Every time you engage in this planning, your brain registers the signal. The light turns on. Your brain releases a surge of anticipatory dopamine, pulling you out of the quicksand of the past and giving you the energetic momentum to move toward the future. You are giving yourself the gift of something to look forward to. As you build this independent future, you must simultaneously build a fortress of human connection around you. Heartbreak often creates a powerful urge to isolate. You feel defective, so you hide from the world. But isolation is the enemy of healing. To understand the literal life or death importance of social connection, we must examine the most comprehensive study on human happiness ever conducted. The Harvard study of adult development began in 1938. Researchers at Harvard University decided to track the lives of two groups of men. One group consisted of Harvard College sophomores. The other group consisted of boys from the poorest, most troubled neighborhoods in Boston. The researchers kept up with these folks for over 85 years, watching them go through life's ups and downs. They learned so much about their everyday well-being and happiness. Later on, they invited their families to join in too. The person running this project today is Dr. Robert Waldinger from Harvard. After looking at all those years of stories, his team found the answer to a big question. What really makes a life happy and good? It wasn't money or popularity. It wasn't about big achievements or even perfect health scores. The main thing that brings joy to our lives is our relationships. Dr. Waldinger puts it simply, good relationships keep us happier. It's true. The study showed that people who felt the happiest with their loved ones in middle age were the most well later on. Those who stayed close to family, friends, and their community just thrived so much more than those who were on their own. Feeling lonely is just really hard on us. It really brings us down. It's just as tough on our well-being as ignoring basic daily self-care. When a romantic relationship ends, it feels like losing your main source of comfort. But the sweet truth from this study is that any good connection helps protect your joy. Close friendships, loving family ties, and feeling part of a group give you the exact same wonderful comfort when things get hard. A great step to take next is to gently check in on your social circle. Dr. Waldinger says keeping up with friends is a lot like tending to a garden. It needs regular care. You just have to keep at it. Your friendships thrive when you give them a little steady attention. Grab some paper and draw 3 circles inside each other. In the middle, jot down the 2 or 3 people who really ground you. These are the sweet friends you could call in the middle of the night if you needed to. In the next circle, write down friends and family you love seeing, but maybe don't see as much. In the outside circle, add casual friends, folks from work or people from your hobbies. Let's try making a gentle habit to connect with these groups. Maybe once a week, reach out for a nice chat with someone in your center circle. Have a nice phone call or grab dinner to catch up on life. A couple of times a week, send a quick hello to someone in your middle circle. Share a fun article, get a coffee, or just see how their day is going. Lastly, try to step out once a week and say hi to the outer circle. Go to a fun local event, try a new class, or help out in the neighborhood. Try reaching out instead of waiting for them. Sometimes when we're sad, we feel like a bother, and we wait for friends to step in first. Let's try to gently change that habit. Be the one to say hello first, send a text, or plan a little get-together to bring more joy into your day. You are making such a lovely group of friends that even when romance is tough, your heart will always have a soft place to land. Now let's chat about a really freeing, although delicate topic. We need to talk about letting go and forgiving. When we think about forgiving someone who hurt us, it's normal to feel really upset. You remember the unkindness and the ways they let you down. You might feel like they don't deserve it. It can feel like forgiving them means saying what they did was okay. It can seem like you're brushing away your own feelings, but that's actually not what forgiveness is about at all. To see it in a warmer light, let's look at the nice thoughts of Dr. Fred Luskin from Stanford University. He has spent years looking at how holding onto a grudge makes us feel. He's helped people through incredibly sad and difficult life events to find peace again. He noticed that keeping all that upset feeling inside just keeps us feeling on edge. When you keep replaying bad memories, your mind still thinks the trouble is happening right now. Every time you dwell on the past, you feel that same rush of worry. It really tires you out and makes you feel tense. It takes away your peace and comfort. It's like accidentally keeping yourself unhappy even after the hard times have passed. He says forgiving isn't about letting the other person off, but about choosing peace for yourself. He describes it perfectly. It's giving up the wish that the past had been different. Take a moment with that thought. It's giving up the wish that the past had been different. Right now you are hurting because you are wishing the past could change. You keep wishing things hadn't happened the way they did. You wish they had been kinder and tried harder. But things happened the way they did. Being upset won't turn back the clock. Feeling angry won't magically undo their actions. The only thing holding on to that upset does is give too much of your day to someone who wasn't kind to you. He shares that forgiving is just gently letting go of the hurt story so you can relax and feel calm again. You never have to talk to them again if you don't want to. You don't have to make up or be buddies. You don't even have to let them know you've moved on. The true letting go happens quietly in your own heart, just for you. You do it because you deserve restful sleep and a peaceful mind. You deserve to walk into tomorrow feeling light and happy. Let's try a gentle little moment to release those old feelings. It will help you untie the knot from yesterday. Find a cozy, quiet spot just for yourself. Sit softly, close your eyes, and take 5 slow breaths to relax. Bring them to mind for just a moment. It's okay to admit it was hard and felt unfair. Your feelings are valid, but then gently realize that holding on just makes you feel heavy. You can quietly say, I am ready to stop wishing you had been different. I am letting go of the wish that things had gone another way. The fact that things didn't work out wasn't my fault at all. I am not going to let this old upset run my tomorrow. I choose to let you fade from my thoughts, and I'm taking my peace back today. You might want to try this soft little habit a few times over the next while. Whenever you feel that old frustration, just pause, breathe deeply, and let it drift away. Little by little, the upset will quietly fade. You'll remember the past, but the heavy feelings will be gone. They will just become a small part of a story you already finished reading. You'll start to feel so wonderfully light. That light feeling is the joy of moving forward. As we wrap up this little chat together, take a breath and notice the lovely comfort you've created for yourself lately. You started this journey feeling really sad and alone. It was a tough time filled with big emotions and lots of quiet hours. But look at the wonderful progress you've made. You've found ways to gently guide your own thoughts toward brighter days. You've discovered how to comfort yourself with simple things like deep breaths, walking outside, and nourishing meals that make you smile. You've swapped out harsh self-criticism for a cozy blanket of kindness. You've chosen to see yourself as someone who is doing their best and growing stronger. You've started a new, beautiful chapter, showing that a little heartache can lead to a really lovely new beginning. Mending a heart is just one of those very human things we all go through. It simply reminds you of how wonderful you are, and you are made of such sweet and quiet strength. The hard times were real, but they really will pass. The softness and strength you found will stay with you. It is yours to keep and enjoy from now on. Our little journey is winding down, but your new chapter is just starting. Step out and enjoy the sunshine with a happy heart. It's safe to care for people again, because you know you have the ability to handle whatever comes your way. You are whole, you are just fine on your own, and you are so ready for all the lovely things ahead. If our time together felt nice and helpful, feel free to like this video and follow the Audiowaves channel to join our friendly little space for more uplifting talks. Keep stepping happily into your day and take wonderful care of your sweet heart.